or one of the things I really want to know, this was something Pace mentioned, and I want you to talk about it for a second, because this is my idea of how I'm thinking of starting and getting into it, was something called a fund of funds, where
Yes.
basically I raise $1 million, I have $1 million, and then I just immediately go to you, is how I understand it, and you just plug it in, and I'm considered a GP, general partner, but I'm also not. I don't know. Can you explain a little bit more what that is?
Yes, and I want to be really clear, right? Neither of us are securities attorneys. Neither of us have any
Right.
licenses. So this is just education, right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of nuance to this. And this, your first call, if you're thinking about raising any capital before you post about it, before the moment you have a thought, you need to be calling your securities attorney. And I still do that to this day. My first call is to Nick all the time because securities rules change so frequently. So that's first and foremost. You are going to reach out to your securities attorney. You're going to tell them exactly what you're trying to do and don't hold anything back because you need them to be able to help you. So with that, you're going to reach out to your securities attorney. You're going to get their blessing because just because you're following securities rules, there's also Investment Company Act and the Investment Advisors Act. So what'll happen is then you might come into my parent fund. So you are not a GP on my fund. You are the general partner of your own fund. And you can raise capital through there. I said there are Investment Advisors Act and Investment Company Act rules that do come into play when you are a fund of funds, which is why you need a securities attorney to help advise you or help you find the exemption that you can rely on. But what you don't want to do is go out, raise capital, do it incorrectly, and then have issues where you might not be able to raise capital ever again.
Right. Okay. So answer I got from that was talk to your lawyer first. But
Yes.
how about, apart from that, what do you think of it as a strategy for a newer person? It made
Oh,
sense to me as
yep.
making total sense as the way it's, oh yeah, because I raise private money for my single family deals.
Right.
So for me, I feel that would just be an instant switch
Easy.
where I could just move it to a different investment class and be, hey, you're going to get also multifamily. I feel like you give the private money investors way more of the deal than you do with a
Yes,
single family deal.
absolutely.
So,
Except we don't call them private money investors, right?
wait, what do you call them again? Equity partners?
They can be equity partners, private equity, LPs, investors. Usually we refer to them as LPs.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
cool. Cool.
So yes,
Okay.
but yes, that is it's a great way to start because it helps you build your track record and your resume. It lets you kind of have your hand held by a more experienced operator without having to take on all of the risk on your own if you're deploying it as a fund into other sponsors' investments.
Gotcha. So I'm curious too. So with your first deal,
Mhm.
so your stressful part, it sounds like money raising.
Yeah.
After that, well, let's go through the lessons again. I just want to recap them. One is
Yeah.
get loud. If you're not freaking starting a
Mhm.
podcast, I have no idea why people don't start podcasts. I think people get intimidated when they see me with someone. Veena. Veena has no idea who I am, right? Really. I just messaged her and was like, hey, I'm a student of Pace. You seem amazing. I want to get you on my podcast, share you with my audience. And she's like, yeah, sure. You've been doing it she has requirements now, right? She
Yeah.
probably, if you just started, wouldn't do it, but I had been doing it for a while, so it worked out. But I've gotten people, Brent Daniels, Pace, Jamil, and a lot of these bigger people will come on your platform if you just ask them.
Yeah.
And I really want to get this in people's head of how important it is, how insanely important social media is. It's why I think it's social media is why Pace was instantly able to get into multifamily without
Totally.
any barriers to entry whatsoever,
Totally.
right?
Yes.
So I
I
wanted to start with that as that's the main lesson I
yeah.
heard from it.
Yeah.
Also, talk to an attorney. Don't do this without talking to an attorney first.
Correct.
If you have $0 in the bank, it sounds not the right strategy. Do some single family stuff. What do you think of that? I'm curious.
I think if you have $0 in the bank, you can still do it. You just need to have partners who are willing to put up that initial capital because
I love it.
remember too, your legal fees, those can all be charged to the fund. They can all be recouped from the fund.
Oh, love it so much. Okay. So you don't need any money. So this is a zero money strategy as well to own millions of dollars. I'm just kidding.
It can be a
Venus,
zero money
Venus, like
strategy. Let's put it that
Venus,
way.
Venus in the background or in the back, just being not what I meant, but I'm just kidding.
It's funny though, because I feel that again is a really stark difference between the single family world and the multifamily world is everybody talks about getting into these assets with zero money down, which is awesome. And I want to buy things without money too. But it's in multifamily, that's not really the core focus. It's really pegged more to performance, stability, and returns.
What does that mean? Explain
Um,
that. What do those three words mean to you? Because I,
yeah.
I understand the definitions, but I know you mean something than what's coming up in my head.
Yeah, so I don't mind putting money into the asset or raising the capital to put into the asset if the asset's going to perform, if it's going to be stable, and really especially in this time where interest rates are going crazy, if the assets are going to remain stable, and historically multifamily does, and they're going to make solid returns, profits to my investors, I'm good with that. What was the third word I said? I said
I
performance,
think
stability,
return.
returns. Okay, yeah, profitability, right?
Yeah.
And those are the three core tenets of what I need for my investors. But you can do it with zero money down. I always think it's a better story when you are telling your investors, "Hey, trust me with your money, and I'm putting my money in too."
Right. No, that totally makes sense. So your stressful part with your first deal, it sounded was before it even closed, was because I mean you were raising the private money. Does the private money person, once the deal closes, you're just done? You don't even have to do anything anymore, or how does that work?
No, I wish. I wish it were that easy. No, 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 no. Because a lot of my relationships are the ones that are investing in our deal. I'm very involved with the post-close asset management. Now, today we have asset managers that their job is to manage our assets, but I am constantly reviewing our performance week over week. I'm making sure that we're not getting too far off track. If we are, then we start intervening. We're very hands-on from an operational perspective, not because I did or I'm great at it, but because the buck stops with me. I have to answer to our investors. So I need to make sure that we're actually aware of what's happening and we can course correct sooner rather than later.
Gotcha. So explain. So give an example of what was some communications you had in your first deal, for instance? What was the
Oh,
example of that?
oh gosh, I don't remember that far back.
Or
Gosh.
just in
Uh,
general. How about just
yeah,
in general? Any
yeah.
deal right now.
Yeah. Okay. So on one of our deals right now, right, we have an issue where a program ended pretty abruptly that we were not anticipating. Usually we get some runway for when these government programs end, and we didn't on this one, which is fine
Hmm.
from the sense of we conservatively underwrote it, but it's not the way things are supposed to go, and we're really deviating from where our pro forma projections are. So now we're increasing our communication to investors where we've implemented certain programs. We've gone back and we've seen, okay, where can we be more efficient? How can we course correct to make up for the pressure that we're feeling from the occupancy destabilizing? So there's a lot of moving levers, and we're trying to pull all different ones at the same time.
Gotcha. But your part in that, for instance,
Mhm.
you hear that. Is yours just to go to your investors and talk to them? What
Mhm.
what what are you actually doing in that part, if that makes sense?
So I'm part of the decision making side of what levers we're actually going to pull, how we're going to pull them, et cetera. I default generally to our asset manager being able to make those decisions and my operating partner to make those decisions because she's really good at it. But I was just in LA for 2 days with her, and we were going through all of the different plans. We were looking at this, how we could slice it, different strategies. Can we rebalance the capital stack? So I'm looking more on where are debt markets, what are different ways that we can look at the legal structure, is there something that we can be more tax efficient in? So all those things are things that I look at, and so I'm not in the weeds of the operation. I'm much more on the higher strategy side. But then in addition to that, I spent a lot of my day putting out investor communications and making sure I'm being proactive with investors. And that's actually a secret, by the way, is when things are not going well, over communicate with your investors. It will be a much smoother ride for everybody
Hmm.
involved. And it's like the first thing people don't want to do when things aren't going well, but it's the first thing you should do.
Interesting. Explain where that comes from. There's a story behind that where
Oh,
you
there,
learned
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
What's
definitely
the
there.
story?
Okay, you wanna know the story? So, this is actually one of the biggest failures I've had in my
Ooh,
career.
love
So,
it.
we had an asset, and this was right when COVID hit. It was in a we call it workforce housing, right? It's a little bit of a lower income area. A lot of the tenants and residents there are essential workers or frontline workers, right? They were showing up to the post office to make sure our mail was still being delivered during COVID. And so naturally, they were contracting COVID and then they'd be out of work for 2 weeks. This was way in the beginning, right? And that asset just, the cash flow got so strained from the tenants not being able to work and not getting that paycheck. If that wasn't bad enough, it was also the time our interest only component on our loan was expiring. So we had principal and interest payments that were about to be due, which means we needed way more cash flow than we actually had available to us or we're going to have available to us. And then and I can't even make this up, but lightning struck the property. And I don't mean it figuratively, literally lightning
Oh my
struck
God.
the property and took out every single fire panel across the entire asset.
Wow.
And so it was just a comedy of errors. And, they were all things that weren't really in our control. But at the same time, it meant that we had to pause distributions temporarily. And I didn't know at that time whether the market was going to start doing kind of what it's doing now, or if it was going to be, okay, I mean, little did I
Right.
know the market was still going to be on fire for the next few years. But what we ultimately did, my gut instinct immediately when COVID hit was, okay, reach out to investors, tell them, hey, we've heard about this COVID thing, we know about it. It is impacting our asset. We don't know what we're going to do about it yet, but we're on top of it. We're looking into, here are the measures we're taking to stay on top of it. And I thought that communication should have gone out pretty early on. And this is some of the challenges with partnerships, is not, even though everyone has the best intentions, not everybody plays the same role. So not everybody has the same idea of how to attack a problem. And so my partners at that time were, no, we don't know enough. We don't know what we're doing. And yeah, but nobody does. Global pandemic. Nobody
Yeah.
on the planet was alive managing multifamily during the last global pandemic. And so then it became, okay, let's wait until we have better information and then we'll reach out to investors. But because I'm investor facing, I could sense that the investors were getting more panicked. I was getting more phone calls about it. And I was, guys,
Mhm.
we need to be proactive in addressing this. And, it was resisted for months. And then ultimately I thought, okay, Veena, in your regular life, you normally just ask for forgiveness instead of permission. So maybe that's what you should do here, which makes me a really bad partner in that regard. Cause I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. And then I'm going to say, I'm sorry, and we'll figure it out. And so what I did was I implemented a monthly call with a video. So it was a live webinar. We went through the same, not marketing deck, PowerPoint every time, every month that the asset was not tracking where it needed to be. I scheduled it in the evening so everyone could join. All of our investors could come live. They could hear us talking about it. They could see us, and they knew that we weren't trying to. I wasn't trying to hide from it. It was, I want to be transparent. I want to be honest with you. And it's not ideal. And I hate it. And I hate having to make this call, but we had to. And so then our investors started giving me really great feedback, really supportive feedback. Veena, I know you're doing a great job. I know you're on top of it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on video, which surprised me. I didn't realize how important it was for investors to see me as I was talking, not just hear me.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we really appreciate that. I wish, all of your partners would come on these videos. Why are your partners not coming on the video with you? And, whatever. I can't make anybody do anything. But for me, that was a really stark difference in how I thought it should be handled versus how partners did. And like I said, I'm not saying that they are wrong. And for their investor base, maybe that is the right way. But for mine, in my gut, I knew that that wasn't appropriate. I knew that wasn't the right call. I allowed myself to make it anyway, but I really wish I would have just done what eventually ended up doing earlier, because it ended up so much better.
I love it. What I love about that so much is that it's still the same lessons No matter
Mhm.
even if you're dealing with $200 million, $1 million, $100,000, it's all the same. Over
Yep.
communicate. Be as honest as you
Yep.
possibly can be. That's
Yep.
something I learned with sellers for single family was just
Yeah.
be incredibly honest with what's happening, with
Mhm.
whatever is going on. They just want to know. And if you're honest up front about what's going on, then they're way more forgiving because they at least
Right.
know that you're
What's
trying.
happening?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. What's happening.
and we ended up exiting that deal for a profit, surprisingly. I thought we were gonna just end up returning principal, and that I mean, we did not hit pro forma, so that's a huge failure in my book, but, it could have ended up a lot worse, and thankfully it didn't, but it was just one of those things. I learned from that so much so that now we probably one piece of feedback I get from my investors today is you guys are so good at communicating. Thank you for your transparency.
Mhm.
Thank you for your honesty.
I love that. So that's definitely another mental note for me and the audience.
Yes.
So I want to know how you deal with stress because I
Mhm.
feel again, this is me in my $1 million space or hundred
Right.
thousand dollar space mind of
Right.
like dealing with $20 million sounds
Yeah.
extra stressful than it does dealing with $100,000. I'm
Yeah, it's
curious
just a
how
couple
you
more
deal with
zeros.
stress. What? Say that
It's just a
again?
couple more zeros. It's the same.
Y
It's just a couple more zeros.
Right? That's what I'm sensing too, which is crazy to me, is that it's in the end the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, the problems are the same, just with more zeros, literally. How do I deal with the stress? Well, isn't this why alcohol was invented? No, I'm just kidding. No, I try to be really pragmatic about what's happening. I do get stressed out because once you raise capital from someone else, regardless of how much it is or what it's for or anything like that, you never sleep the same way as when it's your own money, right? So once you have done that, you've already drank the poison. You might as well drink all of it because it's not going to change
Right.
much for you, right? And so I worry about every single dollar that we take in from investors, whether it's $10 or $10 million or $10 billion. It doesn't change for me, and as you scale, you have better processes and systems in place that you are able to address some of the things that you normally wouldn't. What's been hard for me, and I actually realized this today when I was emailing an investor today. And I've always prided myself on giving our investors unfiltered access to me, which is great. And most of the time it's awesome. And I love talking to our investors. I know all of my investors very well, so much so that I hired a new investor coordinator last year. And when he came on board, he was asking me about investors. I'm like, oh, okay, so and so, you need to text them because they're not going to answer your email. Or oh, don't text them, don't call them, just send them an email and copy their admin or their partner or whatever. He was wow. And then I would tell him a little bit about each investor. They went to Hawaii last year and whatever. And it is scary to me how well you know your investors.
Mm.
And I can't remember why I started telling you about this. I just
So
want
I was talking about how do you deal with stress
oh,
of $20 million then?
yes. Okay. So what I was thinking about today. Sorry, I've been
You're
talking
okay.
all
You're
today.
fine.
My train of thought. Okay,
You're totally
so
good.
this is how I love, and that's how much I love my investors. That's how much I love talking to them. That's how much I love knowing them. Anytime I'm in a city where I know our investors are, I'll always reach out to them and try to schedule time with them. But what I realized is I love that side so much, but it's not scalable when you have tens of thousands of investors in your database, when you have hundreds of investments, right? It's just not a scalable process. And I found myself responding to texts in the way that I would have responded to them 5 years ago. And now, what I'm trying to be better about, and what I actually am, this is as of today, I'm actively trying to do this, is to streamline the communication, right? Because I want them to get an answer. I want them to have an efficient answer, and I want to interact with them, but I cannot have it be on Instagram and on email and on the phone and in
Right.
text, voice. It's just too chaotic. And someone is bound to slip through the cracks. So now, what I've started trying to do is say, I appreciate that. Yes, I'm absolutely happy to answer. Can you please email me? Because then I can send that email to someone else who can give me the answer, right? Our asset manager can give me a quick answer instead of me looking it up and then having to respond to that text. But that's something that's really tough. Maybe that's a fear of mine a little bit, is losing that connection with our investors
Hmm.
by streamlining the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's definitely hard doing. I obviously am not at your guys' scale whatsoever, but definitely going through those growing pains of being
Yeah.
a, for me, I can't keep all my agents on my phone anymore. It needs to be in a CRM so I can
Yeah.
track what the hell is going on with us, right? And yeah, it's
Yeah.
100% it. But okay, so we're getting to the end. I could talk to you forever, but you actually have things to do, right? So I want to make sure I don't take up too much of your time. But this is a question I really ending these podcasts with.
Okay.
And that is, Veena, if you could go back to
Okay.
yourself that day, right when you were, I want to do multifamily is what you're known for. So when you were about to do your first multifamily deal or just starting to get into it, what would
Okay.
you say to yourself then, knowing all the stuff that you know now?
Go further faster.
Ooh, explain that.
Yeah. I wish I would have bought everything back then because there was so much opportunity and I was scared to take on
Hmm.
that much opportunity. But really, I think that, some people say you rise to the occasion, and other people are, no, you fall to your highest level of preparation. And I think maybe both can be true. But I would have spent more time getting better and better and educating faster and faster so that I could have moved quicker. And I would have found partners earlier on that were ready to scale with me.
I love it. Incredible. Veena, you're incredible. That was an amazing podcast. I learned so much about multifamily that I'm gonna rewatch this and take notes while I'm
I love it.
because I gotta manage stuff, but I'm gonna take notes on this one.
I love it.
Definitely one of the more educational ones I think we've ever had for sure. How can people reach you? What are you raising money from people? What are you looking for? How can me and my community help you?
Well, remember, I'm always raising money. So the answer
Okay.
is always
So
yes, no
if
matter
you've
what.
got money, the answer is
Huh.
always yes with Veena. Love
Yes,
it.
always yes. I'm always raising capital.
So
Um,
what how do they give you money? Is it Venmo? How do you do
Yeah,
it?
you can like no, you can drop off a suitcase full of money. No, I'm just kidding. We do everything with legal documents.
Okay.
We do have our SEC rules we have to follow. So you do have to be an accredited investor to invest with us. If you
Mhm.
want to invest, you can go to vivefunds.com, VIVEFUNDS.com. If you want to learn about multifamily, and Jonah, I hope that are you in my Facebook community?
I am in your Facebook community.
Okay,
I am in your
that's
Facebook
great
community.
too.
I've been paying attention.
Okay, good. Yeah, I do a lot of education there. I do a lot of teaching. It's called Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti. And you can just answer the questions. You can join, invite your friends. But in there, what I love about it is I get to hang out with the community. I do Zoom calls. And actually, that was a big fear of mine is starting this whole
Mm,
Facebook community. I was so scared to do it. And then Pace kept watering the seed he planted a long
he's
time
good
ago.
at that.
Oh, he's so good at it. He's when you have your Facebook community, he's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna have my Facebook community."
This
He's
is the
like,
name of it,
"Yes,
right?
that is it. Yep,
Okay.
Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti." And anyway, so I do these Zooms. They're actually free for anybody who wants to join live. It's the first 100 people can join my Zoom call. And then after that, it goes into Veena's Vault and it hangs out there, but which is a subscription. But anybody can join. We do a lot of team building. Probably all of the people you need to do a deal successfully are probably in that group already. Uh,
Love it.
we have
So I don't
everybody.
even need to network. I just go into the
No,
Facebook group and
yes,
start hitting people up.
yeah, you network in there.
What do you think? So, okay, so let's say I'm new,
Yeah.
Jonah, never done a deal before. How
Mhm.
should I meet people? How
Okay.
should people use your Facebook community?
Yeah, you go in, you make an introduction about what you do and what your experience is. And I love it when people share pictures or their family and stuff because I like to know the personal side. I mean, hey, I'm Jonah. I'm a single family investor. I'm getting ready to transition into multifamily. I am scared of A, B, and C, right? Whatever your
Ooh, I
fear
like
are,
that.
address them right out of the gate and say, I think I have an interest in acquisitions. Is there anybody that is looking for an acquisitions partner? Is there someone who can raise capital? Is there someone who can operate? And find the people in there to set up Zoom calls, go meet each other offline, meet for a cup of coffee, set up Zoom calls. I have groups of people in there who now have WhatsApp groups of just accountability partners where there'll be 5 of them or 10 of them in one group and they all check in with each other. They might not even do business together, but they check in with each other and they keep each other in the right mindset to keep moving forward. We celebrate everybody's wins in there. It's supposed to be a community for everybody, whether you're starting out or you've transacted on a bunch of real estate.
So first post should be an intro
Yes.
into who you are, into experience, your fears,
Fears.
and what you want to do.
Yes, and then burning questions. If you have burning questions that you want to ask in the group. Some people will message me on Instagram and on Facebook and all these places. No, post these in the group, because if you have these questions, someone else does too. Let's help more people.
100%. And also, Veena is way too busy for you guys, right? Like she's got so much stuff going on. There are people in her community. I already know it because all of my friends, by the way, I was completely screwing up. There are a ton of people in here giving you love that I just was completely missing throughout the entire the entire podcast. So I was focusing in on what you were saying. But guys, what we want to do here for Veena, because we want to give value before we get any value, and it is joining our Facebook, adding to it. I'm going to post in this afterwards. Literally, I'm probably going to go into the Facebook group, post exactly how you just told me to do it, and start meeting people. Even though I may not be 100% ready, I still am a little bit in the education place. It's better to start meeting people, start taking action now, and start being active in that Facebook group. Because Veena, I bet you watch what's happening in that Facebook group. So you see who's doing stuff. And if you really want to connect with Veena, add value to her group, and I guarantee you'll catch her eye. What do you think?
1,000%. I mean, I am very active in the group. I see who shows up. I see who I already know who the successful people are going to be. I already know who the people I'm willing to partner with in the future are. I have one girl in there. She's incredible and she's so tenacious. And she asked me the other day, she was, hey, I ran into this issue. I need a proof of funds for a small multifamily, right? And if you're not in my group yet, you don't know why I really hate proof of funds letters. But she said, I need a proof of funds. And I said, okay, how much do you need it for? And she said, I'm targeting assets between 2 and 5 million. And I said, okay, great. You can tell them that I'm one of your potential equity partners and I'll give you a proof of funds letter. And so I gave that to her. I've never done that before, but I did it because she's so active in the group and I know that she's going to be successful and I want to be partnered with people that. So yes, absolutely. I notice, I pay attention.
I love it. Awesome. So guys, not only that, she just kind of dropped that in there casually. If you're actually providing value, Veena might even partner with you personally. So guys, everything you want, education from Veena, partnering with Veena, what you do first is you give value to her community. That's what you need to do first, because that's what she's focused on. So if you give that first, then you're going to 100% be able to learn everything you need to about multifamily.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And honestly, I shouldn't even be the one you want to partner with. There's so many cool people in that group that are way, 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 way qualified to be your partners.
I love it. Veena, what else should people, your Instagram is just your name, right? So people can follow you on Instagram. Do you have a YouTube?
I do. Oh gosh, it's Veena Jetti 1, the number 1. But if you go to veenajetti.com, it should just connect you to everything that you need.
Okay, so veenajetti.com. That's just where you'll find all your socials, all that
the
good
Facebook
stuff.
group.
The Facebook group, that's the value. That's where you're going to give value, where you really want to grow that. I can tell.
Yeah,
I can
that's
feel
where I
it.
hang out. Yeah, I hang out there all the time. I love that group.
And it costs $100,000 to get into the Facebook group now.
$1 million now. No, it's free.
Guys, it's free. It's free.
Yes.
That's like the insane part about it is I already know it's free because I'm in it. And it's like, and it's
oh, you owe me $1 million then.
I gotta get the multifamily, and then that's how I'm gonna get it to you. I'm gonna get it to you through private money. That's how my plan on it.
I love it. I love it. You mean through LPs, right?
Whatever it is. I don't know. LPs, through limited partners. I 100% will. Veena, you're amazing. That was so enjoyable. Do you have any last words for everybody on the podcast?
Yes, everybody should be doing multifamily. Just go and do it. Like, true entrepreneurs, they jump off the cliff and figure out how to build the airplane on the way down. You need to do the same thing.
I love it. Amazing. Also, your noticing. I was noticing that throughout the podcast. It's like Halloween color.
You know what? This is like more of a salmon, but I actually need to get them redone. So they're
Okay.
at the end of their life.
I love it. All right, guys. Amazing. Veena, thank you so much. Guys, Josiah Grimes is coming on next week. He's the business partner of Jamil. He's
Love
also amazing person. It's going to be great. That's also, I think, going to be at the same time as this one. I think it's going to be, no, it's going to be 1 p.m. MST. No, 1 p.m. Yeah, 1 p.m. AZ. So that's like 1 hour ahead of this. I'll be posting about it on my social.
Who knows what time zone Arizona is ever in?
Yeah, right. Like who they really just nobody knows. They just do their own thing out there. But he'll be on next week. It's gonna be great. Veena, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna push everyone to go to your Facebook community, and you will start seeing me slowly for the next 3 months, and then you're gonna really start seeing me around June. Just
I
FYI, you're
hope
gonna
so.
like start. June is where you're gonna be like, oh, there he
Love
is again. That's the guy who interviewed
I
me on
love
that
that.
podcast.
I love it. You should
So
try to be in the top 10 because every month, the top 10 most active contributors to the Facebook group, we do a private Zoom where we get to do just like a
ooh.
Q&A, intense Q&A, and everybody else can watch the recording in the vault, but you get to like be live asking like your questions, and it's only 10, the top 10, and then they get a +1. So it's at most, it's 20 people.
Love it. Veena, you're amazing. I'm ending it. Skorch the Fears. Let's freaking go.